Victory 23 in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I'm with Louisiana Representative Raymond Cruz. Thank you so much for being on today, Representative. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, William. I'm glad you're here covering important events around the state.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the best way to get people involved is to inform them in a positive way, and we're looking for positive solutions for this next election cycle. This is a Republican event, but I also like representatives like yourself who try to bring a lot more people together to the table. Mm-hmm. You bring more ideas to the table from what I recognize than just party. It seems like you bring good ideas instead of just party ideas.
Well, I got to tell you, I think a lot of the good ideas come from the party, but just haven't been advocated for in the recent past. And that's where I think we need to get down as a party and say, here's what we believe and here's why, and here's how that could improve Louisiana.
And what I like about that we're saying a parallel thing here, just a little bit differently, is that we're showing more people that this party has values that reach to everybody.
That's right. That's right.
Conservative values of this party know no party. They're not indicative of just a Republican Party. They're actually, I have friends that are Democrats that are more conservative than some of our Republican friends are.
Yeah, that's for sure. Matter of fact, we were just having a discussion on the side a few minutes ago how more and more different parts of the populace are believing these ideas but have yet to switch their party affiliation from outside influences or whatever, the way their family grew up. But I got to tell you what, when it comes down to voting on that day for the general election, nobody has to know. So if you're worried about your family and your friends knowing you voted opposite to your party, don't worry about that. Do the right thing. That's what's the most important.
Vote your values.
That's right.
So I know you don't have an opponent this race. How are you working with other representatives, or are you working with other representatives to help bring that thought out to the masses?
You bet. Because I have some more time available, exactly. I'm going to some other fundraisers, some events to promote those candidates that I think would be best for the state. And, of course, the members of the 19 that you referred to earlier, I'm going to their events and saying, hey, this is a stand-up person. And, the big thing I mentioned a while ago was regret's a great teacher. But regret's got to be founded on a good principle. There are a lot of people who regret doing things because the end result didn't turn out the way they wanted, but there are others that regret what they did or didn't do because they knew it was the right thing and they voted contrary to that. So we're trying to tickle those people to know, hey, you felt that way because it was a good principle and you violated it. So let's stick to those good principles. That way you can feel good and I have to experience this horrible teacher regret, which can really can hurt.
I love what you just said, Merrick, so much. I'm going to rewind that a couple times. I love that about regret. But speaking about regret, looking back at the last session, how do you think they should have handled those last moments of session where the spending bill, and look, I've talked to some representatives, I've heard the other side on, how the money's one-time money, but whether the money was good or bad, whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing, I think getting it to the last 30 minutes to pass is probably the wrong thing. What would you have done?
Well, I would have done that from the very beginning, would have decided, do we want to expend it? And more importantly, why do we want to exceed that? Because people were focused on, well, let's break the cap, let's exceed the expenditure limit. But the reason why was not adequately covered. They just saw the temptation of extra fiscal gains for their area, whatever, and said, let's do it. But there's a reason why that limit was put in place. Why do we ignore the limit? The people that put that limit in place knew that, hey, we don't want to grow government, bigger than we can support it. As a matter of fact, I advocate for shrinking government because the fundamental part of government purpose is to protect our rights, to secure our rights.
Exactly.
When anything outside of that, that's ancillary, it's extra, and we really need to take long, hard looks at that and see if we want to do that.
Well, speaking of rights, speaking of the federal government, speaking of oversight, I'm always one that says I think that where we're losing our freedoms and liberties in America on a federal level is in the growing bureaucracy, is in this administrative process where they're creating rules and regulations, and the federal money, and that federal money comes to the states. I think it's a way that kind of pierces the veil of the 10th Amendment, if you will. But what I'm concerned about is that same kind of growing government here in Louisiana in our bureaucratic agencies that'll rob our local freedoms and liberties. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, let me make a pitch for something on your program here, and that's for Hillsdale College. They've got a bunch of free online courses, and I watched one on the growth of the administrative state. And it talks about the implications of that when the bureaucracy is so big that they're making rules and they're making changes to our government that weren't approved by a representative form, and which means the people had no say in it. They're just doing that. And the more that bureaucracy grows, the less chance we have to affect it even as representatives, because it's grown beyond what it should be. And I think that's a very important thing. And once again, Hillsdale College, a growth of the administrative state, it's free, it's online. They're advocating for our knowledge of how the government's supposed to function, what our founders intended and whatnot, and that directly addresses these issues we're talking about.
I'm going to look that up on my way home tonight, actually. Administrative state on Hillsdale College on there. So any final thoughts on what's happening in Louisiana? Are you excited about these races? Do you see changes coming in Louisiana, positive changes?
I do, and I wore my 36 pin today that we talked about, and that represents a number of people it would have taken to defeat the exceeding expenditure limit. Now, we only got 19, like most of your listeners probably already know, but that 36 pin represented, here's a principle, here's why it's important, don't exceed this. And initially, we had over 40 take pins from us, so they're like, yeah, I'm signed up for that idea. But the pressures outside and inside, from other government forces, they made people compromise on that idea. So I do have an optimistic outlook, but there's always the other side that fights very hard to keep status quo. So let's be prayerful and let's do what we can to make sure the people elected are able to stand up.
I like this. Last thing I want to say is I want to highlight the fact that the money was one-time money a lot, but I think the procedure to bust the cap when the rules are put in place should have been respected, along with not only the cap but also the way it happened in the final 30 minutes. I think I like your approach to that.
Yeah, I mean, the essentials, if you can't keep to the procedure as designed, who knows what the results are going to be. So it's very important that we do the process the way it was intended, the way it was designed, with full debate, full opportunity to review the budget, all that. But when that doesn't take place, does it really matter we vote? Which way we vote? We don't know what we're voting on.
Bad taste in the mouth.
Sure, for sure.
Representative Cruz, I want to thank you very much for your time. I want to share everybody else. Please check into Representative Cruz. He's done some really good things. Check out his website, his pod. What is your website?
Website is, I think it's just Raymond. Committee to elect Raymond Cruz. I can't remember what the website called. I got to apologize on that. I've got someone who handles that for me.
No, that's right. No, I'm going to post it up. I'll get it up there so that way we can share it. Thank you so much for listening and share the interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.